Hello all. I have to apologize because I may be coughing throughout the video because I'm sick, but hopefully it won't be too annoying. So I just wanted to go over this week's task list. So as always, it says week um, task lists. So you can find it in the stream under week 11 task list. So once you open up this document, you'll see that I have some reminders. So the Hate U Give, the book talk, or the podcast is due November 12th. So that's tomorrow, if that's the date you've chosen, or November 19th. And remember that it's completely up to you as to what you want to do with that. If you need more time preparing the podcast or the book talk, you can definitely email me and we can negotiate a better time. Again, make sure that you've signed up and submitted the Choose It, Try It videos according to the dates that you chose. And again, to submit, go into the Choose It assignment and just copy and paste the link to your video. And the actual write-up is also in that link where it says uploads. So for this week, I also want you to start thinking about and starting to draft part 4 of the unit plan. So, and part 4 is where you're actually segmenting the lesson. So it's the 3 to 5 lesson learning segment. So it's the learning segment can be a standalone mini unit or a snapshot, a chunk pulled from a larger unit. So they should be 3 to 5 lessons that build one upon another toward a central focus with a clearly defined beginning and end. So it's 3 to 5 lessons. And remember, later on, you're only going to zero in or hone in on one lesson that you go from beginning to end. The 3 to 5 lessons, the ones that are building one from the other, they're just snapshots of that day. So it doesn't have to be that detailed. I only want one lesson that should be very detailed. So one lesson out of that unit that begins from beginning to end, where you tell me what you're going to say to what you're going to speak, so how you're going to narrate the lesson, each of the things that you'll cover. But I don't want that for the 3 to 5 lessons. I only want one lesson where you actually zero in. So for this week, what you're working on is basically part 2 of the unit plan. And this is the introduction. So you are actually introducing this reading comprehension learning segment. And the most important thing is that you're discussing the strengths and needs of a single student that you might have in mind while planning this unit. So I'm not expecting you to teach the unit. I just want you to provide a unit that you would or could potentially teach with this one focused learner in mind. And they must have an IEP, and you must provide evidence of how you're going to support their learning based on their IEP. You're supposed to describe the setting. So basically where you teach grade level important information from the focused learner's IEP and any additional information that you think is relevant, because you should really think of a focused learner that you know well. Additionally, include a brief discussion of current levels of student functioning. You will include some of the same information in part 4. And remember, while you can definitely deliver the lessons to a whole group, and an entire class, as you're drafting it, I really want you to think of that one focused learner, because as SPED teachers, we're often asked to, push in or pull out and work with students one-on-one. So I want you to have that in mind. And then I want you to, as last week, watch and comment on one Choose It, Try It So someone that you haven't already commented on, and the links are basically the same as they were last week because I haven't seen anyone else upload any new links. But if that happens, I will definitely put it in your Google Classroom for you. So exactly the same. In last week, however, I said to make two comments. This week, I'm only asking for one comment that proves that you've watched it all the way through, and to give us a specific text that you think you could use the new strategy that you're learning with. And then I want you to choose an article on fluency and respond with a say mean matter. So if you go back into the classroom, you will see that you can find the week 11 readings, and this is where you will find all of the articles on fluency. So I want you to choose one of those and just respond in using say mean matter, which you guys have done, I think, twice this semester, so it should be rather easy to handle. And this is where you would upload it into the week 11 fluency say mean matter portion. And then I've also provided you a very short PowerPoint on fluency that I've linked here, and which is also in your week 11 readings. So if you go here, you will see.
Person. Now, how does that look? Well, choral reading. Read as a group, right?
This is the Renzinski link, but here you will find the PowerPoint. So this PowerPoint is on fluency and the importance on fluency and the fact that it was really neglected for a long time. And didn't come, even though we've known that it's so important for students to read fluently. It wasn't something that there was a lot of research around, and it wasn't something that we paid attention to quite as much as we really should. So this week you're going to focus on the key points of fluency and how is it that we can really help our students become more fluent readers and how we can help them read with more prosody. I will say this, there will always be students, particularly students that are on the spectrum, that may never read with the kind of prosody that we would expect. And this ultimately does not impede comprehension, but this is really for a very select few students that I've mostly worked with who are on the spectrum. So again, you're concentrating on fluency and how to model fluent reading, how to create those experiences for your students in your classroom. So if you go through the PowerPoint, you will see that I've cited some of the most recent research around fluency and have discussed how fluency and comprehension are related. So automaticity and short-term memory can only, your short-term memory can only hold a small amount of information, and the information stays in short-term memory only a brief period of time. So when the pace of the reading is too slow, the reader does not move information quickly into the long-term memory. So if you're sitting with a student whose reading is so laborious and whose reading takes so long and who's having such a difficult time decoding, or is a good decoder but is constantly getting tripped up on words, obviously their comprehension will suffer because you only have so much short-term memory that you can hold, and if it's being taken up by very laborious reading, the comprehension will definitely suffer. So becoming fluent in almost any skill requires a great deal of practice, lots of practice. So you will be watching in this week's task. I've asked you to watch a video by Dr. Renzinski, who is a kind of like our fluency guru. So he prescribes that we need to read deeply and broadly. So when we say to read deeply, we mean multiple readings of the same text, and for different purposes. So remember when we did close reading, maybe 5 weeks ago, we did the close reading. We focused it on close reading. And one of the proponents of close reading is that we should really be reading certain texts definitely about 3 times. Because every time we're reading it, we come in with a different perspective and a different purpose for reading. And particularly with difficult texts, students will significantly improve comprehension and fluency um, if they've read it more than once. So repeated reading significantly increases reading rate, accuracy, and comprehension. It works really well with older students as well as elementary students, and it fosters fluent word recognition through multiple exposures to words. And it can be done independently or in groups. So for those of you that work one-on-one with students or have the ability to work with groups that you're pulling out in your special ed instruction, you can have them read. The wonderful thing about deep reading or repeated reading is that you can have students read a passage repeatedly, the same passage, and that automaticity will actually transfer to new passages. So sometimes we think, well, it's kind of like a waste of time to have a student, repeatedly read the same text, but it isn't, because there's actual transfer and building up of automaticity in reading. So this is more on some potential strategies that you could use, and this comes from the Fluent Reader, which is a Renczynski by Timothy Renczynski, and then here are some examples of commercially developed fluency programs. So as I said, really short PowerPoint that you should review and take notes on. And then lastly, for this week, and I just realized I misspelled Renczynski, you need to watch and respond to the video that I have linked here, actually. So I'm just going to move that over for us. And you can also find the video in the week 11 readings. As I say here, I think you should watch the most important sections really are about from minute 16 to about minute 51. If you have time though, I would really watch the whole thing or put it on your to-do list for your Christmas break, because he's personable, he's easy to listen to, doesn't overcomplicate things, but is just really very knowledgeable on reading fluency. And then once you watch the video, I'd like you to answer these really simple questions. So you can upload that into Google Classroom under the Renczynski questions for week 11. And we've already covered the Say Me Matter and the unit plan. And here you would just upload Google Documents, of course, as you always do. I wanted to point out that I have added some resources for the unit plan into our Google Classroom. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed those out for you. So you all know that you have the comprehension unit plan outline here with a rubric and everything else. So I also wanted to point out that you also have it there, but I wanted to point out that I had added some resources for the unit plan, which are right here. So, so this covers collaborative strategic reading, reciprocal teaching, reading in social studies, reading in mathematics. So the different strategies that you could choose for the unit plan. I have started to give feedback on the paragraphs that you submitted last week which were the beginning of the unit plan, so stage one of the unit plan drafting. And I promise that by tomorrow, everyone will have received some feedback, because what I'm noticing is that some of you really understand what the expectations are. But I want to point out that the key focus of the unit plan is for you to teach one of the reading comprehension strategies that we've covered. So you must include either reciprocal teaching, collaborative strategic reading, close reading, a combination of those three. It has to be very apparent that that's what you're working with. Of course, if you want to start, and you should, I hope, start with a visual thinking routine, or you are creating a unit that is thinking around text sets. So that's wonderful. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Or your unit plan is also writing focused. All of that is great as long as I see evidence and you're actually the one lesson that you hone in on. Because remember, the 3 to 5, if your unit plan has 3 lessons, 3 to 5 lessons, those 3 to 5 lessons, I only want a snapshot of those. And I want you to choose one of those that you're going to hone in on. And that one that you hone in on, that's the one where I'd like to see evidence, or explicitly stated, I shouldn't say evidence, that I want you to explicitly state that part of this lesson would be collaborative strategic reading. And it can be as simple as saying that you've already taught these students collaborative strategic reading, and this is the stage where they are, as in this student is comfortable enough that they're now really, really great at being CLUNK experts. And you would explain that, and you would explain having taught the previous stages of collaborative strategic reading. So I think that's it for the week. Again, as always, do text me, email me if you have questions. I would really urge you to go back into the feed by Tuesday to look at the feedback that I've given for those first paragraphs that you turned in last week, because I think that they will be hopefully the feedback just gets you on track so that you can keep moving with a unit plan. I also hope that you've noticed the requirements every week, I think, are less extensive, because at this point it's really more about working on the unit plan. You've really covered most of the major assignments of the course thus far, so you can kind of give yourself a big pat on the back. The only major assignments that you have left are that book talk and the unit plan. And the rest of the semester is really going to be spent drafting that unit plan and receiving feedback. And of course, doing some additional readings on course material. Again, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to text or email me. Have a wonderful weekend.